Hello, welcome back. I hope you have enjoyed these videos about big power electric blasters. Today we're going to look at kind of a combo. We've got the Big509 and the Big505. Let's go! Now, just to reiterate, I did receive these blasters for free for review purposes, but you will get my unfettered opinions. At the time of this writing, the pricing of these blasters on Amazon is a little bit weird. So there's a listing for the 505 by itself, that's the one in the blue box, by itself for $49.99. There's a listing for the 505 and the 509 together for $89.99. I could not find a listing for just the 509 by itself. But the odd thing is if you go into the listing for the both of them for $89.99, it says you're getting like the 505 for $42.95 and the 509 for like $47.95. I don't know. It doesn't really make the most sense, but figure they expect the MSRP to be roughly $40 to $50. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, Big Power did send me a bunch of these, and I'm seeing similarities in some of them. So I'm going to group together the ones that seem basically the same, and then we'll point out the differences. Now, I must admit, even though I have the Dart Zone Magnum Super Drum and the Dart Zone Adventure Force Villainator with huge drums, I don't think I have any of the flywheelers with a huge drum. So there's one by Dart Zone, I think it's the Tomahawk maybe. There's one by Busby. I forget the name of the Busby one, but I don't own any of those. So this is probably my first large capacity drum flywheeler, or flywheelers plural. Now, before we even open the package, let's look at what they advertise. Here on the 509, you are getting cool goggles. They are cool. You're getting 3 battle targets, and you're getting 100 foam darts. I have to assume that those accessories that come with this blaster are going to be identical to those that came with their other blasters, because I have no reason to believe otherwise. Now, on this one, at first I didn't think there was a mention of it, but we do have mention of cool goggles. They're cool. 3 battle targets and 100 darts. By the time I'm done with these reviews, I'm going to have a large army of targets, although that implies that the targets could attack on their, like, just pretend like it works. Interesting, I'm opening the 505 here, and there's no inner box. Everything is just kind of in this outer box, which I guess that works. And the same is true of the 509. There is no inner box. Everything is just in this box. Kind of wish I'd known that before I opened both ends of the box. Alright, so going in, I do expect these two to be perhaps not identical. Definitely in appearance, they won't be identical. But I think in accessories and general kind of feel, I think they will be. So I kind of mushed everything together. I shouldn't have done that. I should have been more careful. But we have 4 packs of darts. Now, unfortunately, these are hard-tip darts, just like every other one. This would be amazing to get 100 darts with your blaster if they were usable and they wouldn't hurt, but as with previous videos, I can't really recommend using hard-tip darts under basically any circumstances, I'm sorry to say. Alright, so each blaster comes with their mini kind of catalog brochure. Every one of these brochure catalog type papers that I've seen so far is exactly the same. They just advertise the same 12 blasters on every one of them, and I'm realizing that's a good resource for finding out what I'm reviewing. So, to summarize their line, to give an overview, we have the one that resembles the Ultra 2, the revolver. Then we have what I'm counting as a total of 3 blasters that are this high-capacity drum. So the 2 of them that we have here, and there's one more, I think that's Big511, the writing is really small. We have 3 blasters that resemble, to me, the Dart Zone Adventure Force Double Trouble, which is a series of 2 interlocking drums. So there's 3 of those, and I will be reviewing 2 of those because that's what I was sent. I'm expecting that overall they are pretty similar to one another. So there's 5, what I assume are mag-fed flywheelers, and they largely look, mostly the same except for accessories and things like that. Now, I do not have every blaster on this catalog. That's okay. I mean, they do seem pretty similar to one another. So, both of these blasters, the 505 and the 509, came with a drum. As far as I can tell, just looking at the appearance, these drums are identical between the 2. And my best theory is that the blasters themselves are, pretty much going to be identical, except for one is blue and one is white. Now, you might be saying, what is the capacity of these two blasters. As far as I can tell, this drum holds 30 darts. It is not the highest capacity thing that exists. There are higher capacity ones, but 30 is pretty good. Alright, let's get on to some of the other stuff. Cool goggles. They are the same as all the other goggles, meaning for me at least, with a kind of a big cranium, they do not fit and I cannot use them. They are a red, kind of a reddish-orange tint. It's nice to have them as an option, and they might fit smaller people, but they do not fit me, and thus I will not be using them. Both of them came with exactly the same targets that all the other ones have. In case you have not seen the other videos, we will go over that really quickly. There's no electronics in these at all. It's simply a friction, knock down with your dart, and put back up with your hand or whatever you're using. The bases link together, so I have 5 here together. Well, at the very least, by the time I'm done with this video, I could have 11 linked together if I was really into target shooting, and who knows, maybe I will do that. I don't find this particularly notable, but I do see that the 509 came with different batteries from the other 3 blasters that I've opened. These are Ox King Power, that gives me Dragon Ball vibes. And these are the same Power Flash batteries. Now, in addition to the batteries in the 505's bag here, there's also some kind of plastic part, and I don't know what it's for yet. In addition to the batteries, the Big505 came with 2 plastic kind of clippy things. I think I see what these plastic pieces are for. My best guess is they are kind of partial covers for the drum. Interestingly, the 509 does not have these. Both of the blasters came with a scope, and I'm sure you can figure out, if you think about it, which one came with which. The scopes are different from one another, but the important thing to note is that they are not functional scopes. They are simply for aesthetics purposes to look cool, as it were, much like cool goggles. I would never use this scope to try and aim at my opponent, but they do look cool. Now, interestingly, the scope that came with the Big505 is in fact the same scope that came with the Big508. They are identical. Alright, it is looking relatively obvious where the black plastic things go. It looks like they can only go on one way on either side. As you can see, the angle of the 2 ends is different, so they will only line up with one way on each side. Side pieces for the 505, these black pieces do hold in pretty well. It looks like they could be removed pretty easily, but they're not going to fall out on their own. So the drum interface or mechanism for both of these appears to be identical, which again is not hardly surprising at all. So each of the blasters on one side has an orange button. And what that's doing is you hold in that button, and you can move that holder in and out. Same thing on this guy. Press the button, move in and out. And presumably it'll lock in the back position once you let go of the button. Yep, neither of those move when the button is not being pressed, so they'll hold the drum in. The drums go in and lock pretty easily. That's not bad. If I were in the middle of a foam dart battle, I'm not sure if I could pull that off super smoothly, but it is doable. It's not especially a problem. You could carry 2 of these drums and swap them out. Let's talk about ergonomics since I'm holding these for the first time. Again, I do not own the Dart Zone Tomahawk, so I don't know how good it is, how comfortable it is. This is not bad. I do not tend to be a very big fan of thumbhole stocks, and the reason is that the palm of, I'm left-handed, so the palm of my left hand ends up hitting this, and I can't wrap around the grip properly, and this is no exception to that. I'm not going to say this is uncomfortable, but it's not my preferred setup. This guy does not have a thumbhole stock, although my pinky ends up hitting the bottom finger guard a little bit. It's not the worst thing. You know, it's funny with this one, I kind of find myself wishing it actually had the little bit of a stock that the other one has. If you like the feeling of a stock, then presumably you'd want the one that has the built-in stock, because you cannot add a stock to the 509. The battery compartment for the 505 appears to be here on the stock, and the battery compartment for the 509 is here on the blaster. Alright, I'm going to have to check the other batteries at some point, but I noticed when I was unpackaging these, I was trying to manhandle the plastic apart, and it didn't work. But these batteries are bendable. I can actually deform these batteries just by squeezing them. That seems not ideal. But you know what? I'm using them anyway. Now, unfortunately, the battery compartment covers for both of these blasters. The screw appears to just go straight into plastic on the blaster rather than going into a metal nut or that kind of a thing. That's unfortunate, and that is likely to wear out and strip the plastic over time. So if Big Power Electric is open to doing a revision on their blasters, I'm going to say that that would be one of the main things that I would want them to address. Let's do a quick sound test. I don't know how well this will convey to you, the viewers, but here is the Big 508 blaster. Alright. Here's the 509. Sounds about the same. And here's the 505. Sounds about the same. So, again, without opening them up, my guess would be these probably all have the exact same motors and connections and whatnot. It is the case for both blasters that the trigger pull mechanically advances the drum. I mean, that's to be expected. These aren't full auto. So one pull of the top trigger while the blaster is revving will fire a dart and advance the cylinder. You cannot pull the top trigger unless you are revving. There is a lock in there. And honestly, that's for the best, because if you could pull the top trigger without revving, then that means that a dart is more likely to get stuck when the flywheels are not revving. You can relatively easily rotate the cylinder on these just with your hand. If you wiggle the blaster, it will rotate on its own. I've seen some that are more egregious than this. I want to say the new Busby one, the 72, rotates even more freely than this. This has the slightest bit of resistance. I don't know how often you will end up rotating it when you don't want to, like just if you're moving your body and it happens to flip on its own, but it could happen. You know, I gotta admit the trigger pull is actually a little bit heavier than I expected. I'm not used to using this exact type of blaster, but given that it has to both activate a mechanical pusher and rotate the cylinder, I think that the amount of force required is in line with those actions. It's just a little bit heavier than you might expect if you're used to using something like a Strife. It is definitely a heavier trigger pull than a Strife. As you would expect, I put both of these blasters through my chronograph, but unfortunately the results were a little bit disappointing. I found that both of the blasters barely topped 60 feet a second. The other blasters in this line that I've tested weren't a lot better. They were roughly 60 to 65 feet per second, consistently. These ones are consistently below 60, so they perform worse for being very similar. What do I think of the Big 505 and the 509? In theory, I should like them more, but I gotta say I think these are a little bit disappointed compared to the ones that I've already reviewed previously. In particular, even though I thought the 505 was a decent value and maybe should be a few dollars cheaper, this at least has the compatibility with Nerf magazines that you probably already have a lot of. This one fires better and it costs less. They both come with the same goggles, targets, and the number of darts. So unfortunately, I'm not finding a great deal to love about the 505 and the 509. They're okay, but I don't really think that, in particular, if you were buying one of these, I don't really think it's $50 worth of okay. I think this might be better priced at maybe $20, $25, and then it would be an easy sale. It's okay. It's not hugely compelling. The fact that you can remove the drum and put in another one, that's nice, but I doubt the company is going to be selling drums separately too. So they're not terrible. I just mostly think that there are better options available and better priced options available. I hope that you have enjoyed this look at the Big Power Big 505 and Big 509. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. That would go far to helping a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Oh gosh.